This is Marketing Jam, a show featuring the brightest minds in marketing. Marketing Jam is brought to you by Cyber Impact, the email marketing platform made specifically for Canadian small businesses. Go to cyberimpact.com/jelly, create a free account, and start sending CASL-compliant promotional emails in just a few clicks.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Marketing Jam. Shahid Devji here. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. And today we've got a great guest, Nathalie Couët, who is the communication manager at DashThis, and she's actually joining us via the internet on Skype. So welcome, Nathalie. Thanks for taking some time out of your day. It's almost the end of the day where you are in Eastern Canada, so thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure.
No problem. So first of all, why don't you tell me what DashThis is for those who don't know? I know because here at Jelly Marketing we use DashThis for all of our clients and it's really helpful, but what is it? Why don't you explain it to our listeners and viewers?
Okay, well, DashThis is an automated reporting tool for digital marketers. So most of our clients are going to be agencies such as Jelly Marketing. Sometimes we also have in-house marketers that are going to use our platform. So it's really a tool that allows you to gather all of your data from across the different marketing tools that you already use to create your campaigns and put them online and really track them. So we have about 34 integrations, is what we call the different marketing platforms that we're connected to. So you just simply connect your accounts for each of those integrations into DashThis, and then you can create really beautiful dashboards in which you pinpoint the KPIs that you want to be tracking and that you want to show to your own clients. Instead of having to go from platform to platform and really pick that data manually and put it into an Excel spreadsheet and then do all of that work of making it look pretty for people who are not necessarily data analysts. We allow you to do that automatically and really streamline the process. And we also have features that allow you to send your reports out monthly, weekly, or whatnot to either the rest of your team or to your clients so that everyone is really on the same page in terms of how your campaigns are going, what the monthly performance is, and are there things that you need to talk about.
Right. So I was looking through the DashThis website, and Stefan, who is one of the founders, or the founder, he described himself on the website, or whoever wrote his bio, as an IT geek and a businessman. But that might have been when DashThis was founded an anomaly. But if you're a marketer today, do you find that you have to have a penchant for data? Can you do your job well without looking at the data these days in marketing?
I don't think you need to be necessarily a data geek. We'll put it that way, but data is a non-negotiable in this day and age. Most marketing is digital, and that's why you need to be able to at least understand what the data is telling you. That's not to say that marketers need to be data analysts. I think those two are really two distinct fields, which we could get into later, really the difference between a business intelligence and analytics tool and a reporting tool. But it's still important to be able to recognize what your key performance indicators are, why you've chosen them, and what they mean and how they can inform your strategies going on.
Would you say that that's something that is relatively new in marketing? I mean, measuring the effectiveness of advertising and marketing has probably been around since the advent of advertising, but it hasn't been as easy to do. When do you think that this digital data age in marketing really took root?
Well, like you said, it's always been a reality, but it's only recently been quantifiable. Usually it was qualitative, right. Sort of like, oh, it's better. We've had more sales. Well, I think actually DashThis started around 2011, so really when digital marketing was ramping up. So it was sort of in the nascent beginnings of the internet as we know it today. And so I think it's been about 10 years really when we're starting to be able to make sense of the data coming in, and we're having more and more of it come in. But so I do think it's relatively recent especially because it's become automated and it's become easier to gather that data, because it used to be, to get any sort of quantitative data, it used to be all manual labor, having to actually talk to people, having to actually look through numbers one at a time. So I think I would say it's pretty recent in the last 10 years, and even so in the last I can't say an exact number, but it's getting more and more real that none of what we do can be done as effectively without data.
Right. How would you say things have changed in the 10 years since DashThis has been around? How is it different today than it was when in 2011 when things first started going?
Well, in terms of I think the biggest difference is the number of marketing platforms that you can now use. So obviously, every space has its own set of competitors, and they're getting more and more of those. So more and more SEO tools, more and more social media platforms, more and more PPC advertising platforms. So there's not only fighting for space in terms of online advertising space. I lost my.
Yeah, and in my use of DashThis, that's one of the biggest benefits, is that because there are so many avenues and so many tools that we're using. Obviously, I don't have to go around and poke into every tool to see how things are doing. But going beyond that, maybe you can speak a little bit to the presets that DashThis has to help you decipher what you should be looking for even. So you talked about it a little bit a couple minutes ago, in that there's a presentation of data, but then there's also the analysis, and then there's what you should be looking for. How much of that does DashThis do for someone who maybe is relatively new in digital marketing and doesn't necessarily know what to look for? Those presets, in my experience, have really helped. Is that something that you focus on quite significantly?
Absolutely, because one thing that we really that's our big focus at DashThis is allowing agencies to scale their operations without necessarily scaling their efforts. So an agency with 10 clients is going to have certain needs, and we don't want an agency with 100 clients to have 10 times more work to do just to gather all of their data. So that's why you mentioned the presets. We have internal marketers here that have really pinpointed the types of reports and dashboards that are important for different verticals and different horizontals. So, an agency specialized in SEO, or even an agency specialized in SEO for hotel management. And they've gone through the most commonly used platforms for marketers who focus on that specific niche. So what platforms are they using? What KPIs are going to be the most important to them? What kind of layout do they want in terms of that KPI? What's going to be at the top of the dashboard? What's the overall interest, and then how can we dig into that? So we've created dozens, if not hundreds, of both preset dashboard reports that someone can just pick. Say, okay, I've got a SEO client that's really high level. I'm going to pick this template, and then it's already pre-populated, and you just have to plug in your integrations, your marketing platforms, and then everything appears already on screen, and you haven't done really any work. Obviously, you can customize it as much as you want. Say, no, this client, I've already talked to him about this KPI. It's less relevant. I'm going to replace it with something else. And then we even go more into the presets and more into the streamlining of the process. And we've got thousands of preset widgets, so preset KPIs that all correspond to the different marketing platforms that allow people to, without having to know which metric and dimension they have to combine together to show the data that they want. We've already pre-built that for them, and they just say, I want to see revenue, and then they go into Google Analytics, okay, revenue, drag and drop, and it's there in their dashboard. So it allows marketers that understand the importance of data and who want to educate their own clients on the importance of data and how their investment in this agency, how it's helping their own revenue. Let's put it that way. So there's a chain. There's the end user that is the client of our client, so client of our agency. So they need to be educated on why their investment in that agency is so important, and they don't necessarily need to see all the nitty-gritty details of the data on the back end. And even most marketers who are going to be account managers, they don't need to see that kind of detail either, unless they're actually working on their campaigns. But they don't need to see it while they're making high level strategic decisions or talking to their client.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into my next question, in that for people like me who love to see the data and love to dig into it, I'm tempted to include as much as possible in the dash to report to the clients. And obviously there is a fine line and a balance to be found in what you're reporting to the clients. But is there a danger in your mind in this day and age, with all the data that is available to us, running into paralysis by analysis, in that there's too much data and you're presenting so much of it that it effectively ends up being not helpful at all? Is that something that you've seen happen before? And do you have any advice on how people like me and at agencies, or even businesses themselves, can avoid doing that?
Absolutely, and we fall into that trap here in our own marketing team every day. I mean, it's like you said, we love to look at the data, and we know how important it is. Well, I think it's pretty basic, but the most important thing to remember is when you're choosing what KPI to have in front of you, the question to ask yourself is, can I act on this? Is there something that I can do concretely to change this number, to change this trend? And if the answer is no, well, then it's probably a good idea to keep an eye on it, but you don't necessarily have to have it in front of you at all times. And especially also, there are some KPIs that are what we call vanity metrics, and it's a term we tend to throw around, but a vanity metric that is theoretically, that is in practice actionable, but the end result doesn't really matter. So I use the example of Facebook followers, for example. Having more Facebook followers is nice, but what does it actually give you as a business? That's the question. So sometimes you want to have it in front of you just because having more Facebook followers, maybe that increases the reach of your Facebook ads. Well, that's something that can be worthwhile, because as you increase the reach of your ads, then you're probably going to increase your referral traffic or your revenue through those ads. But just the followers in and of itself doesn't give you anything or any actionable information as a business. So I think those are the important questions to ask yourself when you're choosing the KPIs is, can I act on this? And is the end result of this something that is worthwhile to my business?
Right. So I do want to talk, I love talking about the product and the reporting and the data, but I do want to talk about you and your role at DashThis, because you are a marketer as well, and what you're doing for DashThis is sort of what we're doing for a lot of our clients. So maybe tell me a little bit about what you do on your day-to-day in your job.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm part of the marketing team, so there are several of us, and we, as a small business, we wear a lot of hats. So my day-to-day is never the same, which makes it super exciting. But I'd say that my biggest role is really sort of acting as I'd say the tone of DashThis, we'll put it that way. So who is DashThis, and how do we portray ourselves, and how do we want people to see us, not only as a software, but as a business, as a potential partner, collaborator. So that's really, it's very vague, but that would be my main role is how do we represent DashThis to speak to our audience? And obviously we do this, we have more analytical marketers that are in-house, and obviously I understand the data, and I love the data, and it's always important to have in our discussions. And the data allows me to then say, okay, well, this message did not come across as we wanted it, so we have to change that. Then in the details, I help strategize and operate all of our blog posts, all of our website whenever we optimize it, creating new pages, all our social media, making sure that we're involved in the communities that we want to be involved in, and speaking to our audience that way. And then all of our different types of projects of direct product marketing. So our emailings to our clients, we work a lot with our account management team because all of our users have their own account manager, and we really want to be able to automate as much as possible and yet keep it very personal. So we never ever want to have a client or a potential user email us and not get a personal response, but at the same time, account managers want to focus on what needs to be focused on, what needs to have a personal response. So everything like product updates, newsletters, and things like that, things that we want our users to hear about. That's on our end in terms of marketing, and then everything in product as well. So we make sure that the tone, like I said, I make sure that the tone of DashThis, whether it's pop-ups or even just like the edit blades within the tool itself, making sure that the tone of DashThis is respected across all of our content. Yeah, that would be.
Okay. So we've been talking about different platforms throughout our conversation here. Have you found that one platform over another for communicating that message and that tone about what and who DashThis is has been working for you more so than another these days? If so, what is it? And if not, what then do you rely on to get the message out?
I wouldn't say there's one platform. I think the most important thing, like we were discussing, the sheer quantity of platforms that there are online is because people are, as a consumer base, we're more and more fickle, and we tend to go from one platform to the next, one app to the next. So getting the message across is all about using multiple channels to reach the same person, and each of those channels you're not going to speak the same way. So the way that we would communicate a message through a Facebook post, for example, would not be the same way that we would communicate it in the app in a pop-up, but we would still want to communicate it equally across those platforms because we want to make sure that we reach the user in his or her prime, like right when they're primed and ready to reach to receive that message. So no, I don't think there's one channel necessarily that's better. I think what's important is the cohesiveness of all the channels together, and the most important thing is keeping that brand image identical, because we are sort of a casual. Well, I don't like to say casual, but we are sort of a casual kind of B2B SaaS, contrary to a lot of our competitors, and that's important to us that we keep that friendly. I like to say local shop vibe, because that's what makes us really turn into partners with our users and clients, and not just a service provider. And so it's important that we diffuse that sort of message across all of our channels equally.
Yeah. So in your title, at least on LinkedIn, you have the term content marketing, and in talking about overseeing the website and the blog, content marketing is something that you deal with on a day-to-day basis, and you just mentioned that the readers and viewers and the audiences can be fickle in terms of platform because there's so many of them and they're always changing. So how important do you think it is to really own content marketing and publish on your website and get the message out that way first and foremost, so that you're not necessarily relying on all the platforms that we're talking about, and is that something that you see continuing to grow?
Absolutely. I think content marketing on your own platform is going to be, obviously selling what you do is important, but I think it's one thing that's as important is also selling your expertise, because just selling your tool, people aren't necessarily looking for a software when they go searching for what is this KPI or what is marketing reporting, or they're not necessarily looking for a software. They're looking to be educated and informed. So as consumers, and as we become a little more fickle, we'll say, we're also becoming more wary of being sold something. What we want is to feel in control of what we're using in terms of platforms, and we want to be informed. So what's important is that you use your own personal platform to inform on what your expertise is. So for us, it's not just using a reporting tool. Yes, that's what we do, that's what we sell, but we are experts at why that's important and what it can help agencies do or in-house marketing teams do, how it can help them grow their business and scale, and how they can, by automating certain things, they can then personalize other things instead of automating, client relations, for example, which should never be automated. So I think that, you want to blend sort of the, selling when someone is really looking for, I don't know, I'm going to say SEO reporting tool. Obviously, they're just looking for a comparison and what are your features. But your platform is made to share your information and your education with them, so that they trust that eventually, when they need your tool, they trust that you know what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. And I was looking through the blog that you guys publish, and there's a lot of expertise. There's a lot of commentary on new features on different platforms, not necessarily your own platform, which is sharing your knowledge and helping to empower and educate your audience. I don't want to put you on the spot here, but is there one blog post or two that stand out to you that have been more successful and received better than others over the last little while in terms of that education side of things, or is it all kind of fairly standard in terms of the reception?
In terms of the educating, informing users, I'd say it's pretty standard. It's going to depend, some are going to be more informing about a change, some are going to be more like top 5 KPIs. But I think one that's in recent months that really had a lot of success was our, forget the number, I think it's 49 top reporting tips or top marketing reporting tips. And there's 49, but we spoke to hundreds of professional marketers, a lot of which are our clients, and then we reached out to others, and we wanted to gather their tips because we realized that we can be in an echo chamber here. We can think we know really what the right way to do is, but it's always useful to talk about people who are actually doing this every day and actually using our software or another software. And that article really gained a lot of traction, mostly because, one, people want to be involved in educating. I think it's human nature at this point that we want to share what we're good at and what we love to do, which is why we got so many responses. And then people were proud of being a part of this huge sort of encyclopedia of sorts. And so they were able to share it and share their expertise with their own clients and their own audience. So I'd say that one really, because it was a give and take and it was really getting everyone involved in that story, that was really a success that we're very happy with. And we found that well, as we know already, but our own clients are really an untapped resource of brilliance and expertise that we want to use more and more, which is why in 2019 actually we sort of flipped the script, and our blog is now mostly populated by articles from our own users, from our own clients. We invited, after this article, we invited everyone to be like, hey, you guys know really what you're talking about. Do you want to be involved? Do you want to share your expertise and sort of grow your audience that way? And it's been really insightful, and it's been really successful as well.
Yeah, and that seems to be more and more commonplace these days and quite effective. I'm wondering if you can tell me a little bit more about your thoughts on cross-publication content sharing in the partnership side of things that you deal with. Is that really one of the most effective ways today to get your business's name out and your expertise out in the open, aside from publishing on your own platform and running ads? Having somebody else talk about you, or you be talked about by somebody else on somebody else's website, seems almost like the best way to go these days. Would you agree?
Absolutely, because you automatically tap into an audience that you didn't have the opportunity to tap into before. And on the opposite end, obviously, having someone else publish on your blog allows you to grow yourself and to grow the scope of what kind of information you can share on it. So again, you're tapping into an audience that wouldn't have necessarily landed on your site had you not published an expertise of a different view from someone else.
Right. Yeah, and how do you find the transition between sharing that expertise and the education, and then going to the tool and maybe the harder sale? Is there sort of that natural progression there, or do you have to be a bit more overt in what you're doing to actually get people to go to the next step?
I think it's really going to depend on the content itself. There's some that's going to be purely educational, and we have to recognize when we're looking at the KPIs of that page that it's more of a long-term investment of, okay, well, now this visitor is going to be aware of us, and they might think of us next time that they're looking for information connected to this. We do always want to give the opportunity for someone to start a free trial, to explore DashThis more. Our blog is found on our site, so they have the regular menus, they have the try it free in the corner. There's always that opportunity, but the degree to which we're going to try to sell the tool itself is it has to be done organically in order to be done effectively, because or else it's a little jarring, and you can even turn off some consumers who are like, wait, I was just here to learn, and now I don't even want to think of you anymore because I'm not going to come back because you're just going to keep trying to sell to me. But it can be done very nicely and very fluidly. If someone, for example, is looking for the difference between a BI tool and a dashboard or a reporting tool, well, that's already an easy transition, because, well, if this is 50% of you might be looking for the dashboard tool, well, here it is. But someone who's looking for maybe top KPIs for SEO, for example, the transition is going to be a little more difficult. It's going to be a lot more subtle in that case.
Okay, so since we are a marketing podcast here, and we have listeners and viewers who are businesses and other agencies, but also who are starting their marketing careers or are still in school, we always like to ask our guests for advice and a little bit of their story. So I'm wondering if you can share some advice on where you think people getting into marketing right now should be focusing a lot of their attention if they're just getting out of school or just starting their professional careers. Kind of a question looking into a little bit of a crystal ball here, but where do you think the trends in marketing are headed this year, 2019? Maybe from your experience at DashThis and what you guys are planning for this year. But obviously, data's big, and I'm not sure what your opinions are on print. I know you have some experience in print previously, but where should people be focusing a lot of their attention and trying to get own their skills?
I'm a very poor example of that because I didn't actually study marketing.
Okay.
So my own it's a little circuitous how I got here, but I'm very biased from DashThis, unfortunately and fortunately, because we've sort of, every single one of us here has carved out our role based on what we're passionate about. And it hasn't necessarily been imposed on us. And I think that's why we've been successful, because every one of us does exactly what we want to do and what really interests us. And because of that, we become experts in it. So I think, obviously, you mentioned data. That's almost a non-negotiable, even if, like I said, data analytics and being able to do data analysis is not a prerequisite for a marketer. And even I think those two roles are distinct. You have to be comfortable with data and be able to understand what you're looking at and what it means. And I think that's just a trend that's going to keep going up in terms of a comfort level with data. I also think that that especially if you want to work in an agency environment, whether it's for print or digital, I think something that's a little counterintuitive but is becoming more and more important is the human relation. I think we tend to think that because all softwares are there to help us automate everything, that we should be automating everything we do. And I think one thing that really can set a marketer apart is the way that he or her is able to speak to either stakeholders or their clients. Because creating amazing campaigns with great results is great, but if you're not able to really educate your own client or your own boss or whoever the stakeholder is, and not able to synthesize that information cohesively for someone who is not a marketer, you're going to have a hard time getting rehired and continuing to work with that person, even if your performance is great. So I think, and those are polar opposites, being comfortable with data and being comfortable fostering a real relationship with the people that you're working for and or with. But I think those are two things that are really going to distinguish a marketer from another: the comfort with the data and the ability to present data in a humane fashion for people who are not marketers.
Yeah, it's kind of the best of both worlds, right? So lastly, why don't you tell us what's exciting upcoming with DashThis in 2019 and beyond? Anything exclusive you can share with us here?
Well, exclusive without
maybe that's a stretch, right?
Yeah, well, I can say comfortably that we are going more and more towards helping agencies scale. So without necessarily getting into the details of which features we're developing, because those I prefer to keep like an exciting surprise. We've really, the past 2 years, we've really focused on streamlining the features that we have and making sure that the data loads faster and making sure that everything is smoother and the UX is even more friendly in the app. And now we're looking towards creating features and developing the existing features and blowing them out to allow for agencies to grow exponentially, and that the reporting software sort of grows with them and allows them to do more as effectively as doing what they do now. So I can't really get into the details. I know it's vague, but our goal is to really to grow along with our agency. So as our agency clients grow, we want to make sure that our software grows with them and that they don't grow out of it. I'll put it that way.
Perfect.
And I was going to say, in terms of brand and marketing, we're really, you mentioned it a little bit, but collaboration and partnerships with other people or other businesses in our space that agencies and digital marketers use every day. So these can be, project management platforms and platforms that enable to create proposals easily. All of these things we want to try to be where our users are already, and sort of create sort of bundle packages, like here's everything you need, Agency 101.
Right, perfect. Well, looking forward to it. Thank you for taking some time and joining us today. Is there anything else you wanted to add and share with the audience?
No, well, thank you very much for having me. It was really a pleasure, and it's 2019, we say it every year, but it's going to be a big year, and it always is, and it's always exciting to see how marketing and how digital marketing changes so rapidly, and it keeps you on your toes, which is great.
All right, well, thanks again, and that was Nathalie Couët from DashThis. Again, if you want to watch any previous episodes of Marketing Jam, you can head over to marketingjam.ca or follow Jelly Marketing on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube. Anywhere on the internet you can find us. You'll be able to catch previous episodes and upcoming episodes. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.